Welcome. It is Thursday night or Friday morning, depending on when you're listening. This is episode 3 of the Even Year Dynasty Show. On this episode, we are going to do a off-season predictions for the San Francisco Giants. Some of these are going to be a little more bold than others, but we're in a kind of a dead cycle for or dead news cycle, I should say, for the offseason. Free agency started just Monday, but with baseball, not a lot of stuff happens usually until closer to the winter meetings. Biggest news of the day right now is that the GM meetings got canceled because a bunch of them got viruses. So with that said, we are gonna go through some of the Giants news that has been released. Starting with Will Bednar was shut down in Fall League. Really unfortunate for him. Back discomfort. He's been dealing with a back injury pretty much all season, and he's lost almost his entire season to that. Kind of an unlucky player so far. Him and Hunter Bishop, particularly, since Farhan has been here. That's 2 first-round picks that they may or may not have ever panned out anyway, but they've essentially lost most of their career so far to this point due to injuries. So unfortunate for him. He's a guy that I felt pretty confident he'd actually turn into a decent starter if he can get healthy. But not a good sign when he's been battling injuries several years since they drafted him. Some news about the coaching staff. They haven't announced anything yet. It does sound like Ryan Christensen's going to probably be getting hired, as well as Matt Williams. Now, what roles, it's hard to tell. I know a lot of clubs are doing that associate manager position rather than just having a bench coach. Some of it's going to depend on who gets retained on the current staff. It does sound like Andrew Bailey is probably going to be looking to go to an East Coast team. I would speculate that Kai Correa, Alyssa Nakin, and Mark Hallberg are going to remain. Seems like the club is pretty high on those 3. Which makes me wonder with Matt Williams, is he going to be the third base coach, or are they going to maybe move him over to first base? That remains to be seen. One other name that's been getting floated around is Brian Price, who used to be the Cincinnati Reds manager. He was the pitching coach in San Diego with Bob Melvin, and did work under Melvin as a pitching coach in Seattle back in 2003 and 2004 when Melvin was there. So we saw that. And then the last thing I noticed today was, the report that the Giants are going to come out and do a full court press, so to speak, for Shohei Ohtani. Duh. That's no surprise there. We'll see. I'm not going to hold my breath on that one. Kind of just rooting for anybody but the Dodgers at this point. Of course, I'd be super excited if the Giants could find a way to sign him, but I'm not going to hold my breath, and I'm not going to go too far into that one because we're going to probably do an entire episode on him at some point. He is that special of a player and probably deserves his own episode. So without any further ado, I'm going to start going through my predictions. I only have 4 of them at this point. But the first prediction I have is that 2 of Mike Yastrzemski, Austin Slater, Mitch Haniger, and Michael Conforto, 2 of those players are going to get traded by the Giants in this offseason. You have a very crowded outfield. They're all pretty redundant pieces in the sense that you have 2 righties that typically hit lefties pretty well and 2 lefties that typically hit righties pretty well. This team doesn't need more platoon players, and especially 4 of them in the outfield. Now, Mitch Haniger, he has not been necessarily a platoon split guy in his career. Last year, they did end up platooning him in September, but that, honestly, he just had such an atrocious year, they kind of had no choice. Conforto wasn't treated like a platoon player last year. Maybe should have been treated like a platoon player last year. We touched base on that. And then Yastrzemski and Slater have basically been in a platoon with each other for the last couple of years now. So I do think two of them are going to get traded, especially because the Giants do seem pretty set on trying to get a center fielder that's going to take up a roster spot. Luis Matos has, I think, shown enough at the major league level to show that he belongs, and hopefully he does add some strength, bulk up a little bit, and show that he's ready for 2024 and going to come out and play his way into an everyday role. So I do believe two of those players are going to get traded at the end of the day. Number two, this actually, it's not really off season. I do think that JD Davis is not going to get traded in the offseason, but I think JD Davis gets traded by the trade deadline. I think he's going to start the year on the team. I don't think the Giants are comfortable quite as much as I want them to start Casey Schmidt every day at third base. I don't think that the team is going to be comfortable with turning it over to him and having essentially not quite two rookies, but he did only have about 300 plate appearances last year. But I don't think they're going to be comfortable having a left side of the infield of Casey Schmidt and Marco Luciano, who both have a combined like 350 plate appearances in the majors. I think they're going to roll with JD at least to start. I wouldn't be shocked if Casey is on the big league roster to start the year, although me personally, if he's not going to be starting every day, I'd rather he start every day down in Sacramento, and I would rather they keep up Tyler Fitzgerald, who can play third, short, second base, as well as center field. I think the versatility of Fitzgerald, as well as the speed, better serves him in like a Chris Taylor role or a bench piece role. So I do think that JD Davis does eventually get traded by the trade deadline. He's going to be 31. It's his last year of his deal. He has value now. So I think they're going to eventually capitalize on that and turn over that spot to Casey Schmidt down the road. I do see that they have the supposedly at the GM meetings, Chapman met with Bob Melvin. I don't know if that had anything to do with recruiting or if that was just, he played for Bob Melvin and it's just a discussion with him. I'm sure they talked about him trying to come to the Giants, but I don't think that's a good fit. I don't think they're going to invest $25 million a year in a 31-year-old third baseman with a declining bat. I don't see it, but Farhan has shocked us before. Third prediction, I think either Kyle Harrison or Carson Wisenhunt gets traded this offseason. This is a team that's going to be very aggressive on the trade market. They have talked about trying to get, trade for a star or acquire young talent, or, now they're being linked to Pete Alonso. Supposedly they've expressed interest in him. I'm not sure what that would take, given he's only under contract for one more year, but that's a, bona fide star that I, along with a lot of other Giants fans, would love to see him out there. I think he's one of those rare players that could go to AT&T Park and hit 40 homers. Oracle Park, phone booth park, as I like to call it. He's been linked to the Giants. I could see a guy like, if the Chicago White Sox, this would be my dream pickup. If Luis Robert Jr. becomes available, I could see Harrison easily, he'd probably headline that deal. There's a lot of other players around. The Reds have a bunch of them. Some of them, I don't know if they would actually take one of those guys, like a Lars Nootbaar or Will Benson or Spencer Steer or Tommy Edman. Some of these guys, I don't know if they would necessarily take a Harrison or a Wisenhunt. They might be able to acquire them with some of the other pitching prospects that they have. Another name to look out for, supposedly the Brewers are going to be selling off. A lot of people are talking about Corbin Burns. If I was going to look at anyone on that team, I actually really like Willy Adames. He's a very plus defensive shortstop, has some pop. He's hit 20 home runs multiple times now, including 24 this past season. He's worth, 8 to 9 defensive runs saved a year at short. And he's a good contingency, both for if you want to give Marco Luciano more time to develop and not rush him, or also if you potentially want to move Marco Luciano off shortstop. The talk has always been that he's not likely to stick there. When I watched, he looked comfortable, but with the back injuries and different injuries he's had, it might be something where they could move him. I don't think they move him to third. I think they like their options at third. I don't see how you can move him to second, given what Thairo Estrada has done and developed into a very good defensive second baseman. I mean, he absolutely should have been a Gold Glove finalist this year and was snubbed. So I don't see how you could put him there. I've kind of wondered if he could pick it at first. That would be an interesting one, if maybe he would fit there. Or, they may just chuck him out in left field and call it good eventually. So I like Willy Adames in that case. I think he'd be a good fit. He's only under contract for 1 year. I don't know if they would end up extending him. But that would be someone to keep your eye out if they wanted a kind of a contingency for Marco Luciano or to potentially move him. So all of this to say, I don't think they're going to end up having both Harrison and Wisenhunt on the front in the system come come spring training. I think one of them gets moved for some big name. And the last prediction I have is the Giants are going to end their drought and finally sign an international free agent. And they are going to sign Yoshinobu Yamamoto this year. Reports have been coming out that they will not be outbid for him. This is kind of according to sources around the industry. These are different execs and everything. They in the Andrew Baggerly article, I think it was a week or so ago, it came out that they teams are expecting the Giants to have the highest bid on this one. Now there's going to be a ton of interest. I know St. Louis sent Arenado and Lars Nootbaar out there to try and recruit him. The Yankees are obviously interested. The Mets, I'm sure, are going to be interested. This is a situation where it's kind of time for the Giants to finally flex their financial muscle. Since Farhan has been here, all he has done is clear space off the books, get rid of bad contracts, avoided handing out long-term bad contracts. I mean, he's handed out some poor ones, obviously. You're looking at Conforto, DeSclafani, Stripling, Haniger. He's LaStella. He's definitely had his share of bad contracts, but he has avoided giving out the long-term ones that are going to bog them down for, 6-7 years. So I think they're going to end up getting Yamamoto, but they're not going to stop there. I think they're going to get Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and then I think they're also going to end up getting Jung-Hoo Lee. They need a center fielder. It's clear how desperate they are right now for a good defensive center fielder. Pete Patilla went all the way to Korea. You see the video of Jung-Hoo Lee taking his kind of ceremonial last at bat. And they're showing the crowd, and all of a sudden they show, and there's this one guy that looks like a baseball executive, and sure enough, it's Pete Patilla. That's who we don't really hear from him much, but he went all the way out there. I mean, the thing with Jung-Hoo Lee that's come out is he wants to go somewhere that will be patient, and he wants to go somewhere that supposedly is going to treat him like a star. Well, how do you show you're going to treat a guy like a star more than going out there when he's missed 3 months just so you can be there when he takes his final at bat in Korea? So I'm predicting they're going to actually sign both guys, and they're going to have a big offseason. Whether or not that translates into the playoffs next year, or it just ends up being a building block going forward. Part of the reason I think these are kind of right up Farhan's alley is both guys are 25 years old. These guys fit multiple timelines. You're hoping that you obviously you hope Yamamoto is an ace right away. You hope Jung Hoo Lee is a top of the order table setter, great defensive center fielder, but they're 25. Even if they don't, you don't make the playoffs this season, you're talking about guys that you're trying to get 5, 6, 7 years of their prime. You're trying to get all of their prime years, and I think these are the exact kind of guys that Farhan Zaidi is going to invest his money in. So other than that, let me know in the comments. Tell me what your predictions are going to be. Tell me if you think I'm off base on any of these. Other than that, Twitter handle is going to be in the bio. Please like and subscribe to the video. Helps with growing this channel. It's a new channel. Love giving my takes. Love interacting with everyone. But other than that, we will see you hopefully in the next few days. Peace.